Hit record. And you got to click OK. Okay, everybody, I'm here with Nicolle Kopping-Pavars. She's the author of this little mindfulness handbook. You can open it up and just take one meditation a day and relax. But here's the weird thing about Nicolle. She was a family law lawyer for 100 years. And you gave it up. You gave it up to embrace the practice of mindfulness, teaching trauma informed service. And you've got a niche. It's directed to your colleagues in law. I have long since tried targeting lawyers for mental health services. What a resistant bunch. What a resistant bunch. Um, so I've been barely marginally successful at seeing lawyers in my practice. Tons of social workers. Okay. They get it. But lawyers, oh my God. But you recognize the need for lawyers to manage their deportment, their stress, the trauma that affects them from the clients they serve. And you've switched your this, honestly, Nicolle, it blows my mind. You've switched your practice 180%. I don't think you're practicing law whatsoever. You're in the practice of supporting lawyers who practice law. How did you do that?
Oh my gosh, there were so many questions there and so many things. I hope I can try and even remember some of them. But the one thing I do want to say, which I think is the big difference between social workers and mental health workers and lawyers,
Mm.
is our training. My understanding with social workers and psychologists, and their training is very steeped in, you need to care for yourself. You need to have a supervisor because you can't do this by yourself. So you need to have supervision. You need to unpack what you're doing. You need to build up your resilience. So it's that's in your training.
Yes.
Lawyers are, you're in it for yourself. Don't you dare talk about vulnerability. Don't you dare talk about emotions. You close up, you shut up, and you're on your own with respect to that. So the thought of being vulnerable to somebody else immediately goes, if somebody finds out that I'm not coping, am I now not a competent lawyer? If that's deemed not a competent lawyer, is the Law Society going to take my license away? You know what? I'll just pretend everything's okay. Maybe
Wow.
take a few drinks every once in a while and hope it's so it's steeped, our trauma is steeped in how we are trained to be competent. And to me, competence is an all-encompassing thing. It's not just competent professionally, competent emotionally, competent spiritually, competent physically, like we have to be a completely whole person. So I already think that's where lawyers got a raw deal in their
Mm.
training, you know. And
What, if I may, what you made, I think you're bold and I think you're brave because you went from the practice of law to now supporting lawyers in their practice. That's a huge shift. What prompted you to do that?
it was first, it was done in stages.
Okay.
It wasn't like this suddenly.
It felt sudden to me watching it.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say like it really started, like I went through like my own personal self-development, figuring myself out in about 2008, 2009, when I opened up my law practice. But already then I was very specific. When I opened up my practice, I was very specific about who I was as a person. Remember, becoming a lawyer in Canada wasn't the first time I'd been a lawyer. I was already a lawyer in South Africa. And so I came here and I got a second opportunity to practice true to my moral values, true to
Mm.
my compass. Because when I was a lawyer in South Africa, I was young, naive. I had to play the part, I had to dress the part, I had to pretend, I had to put all that facade on. And even though I was only in practice for a short amount of time before we emigrated, I already knew I wasn't being true to my values. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a lawyer. So
Mm.
when we immigrated and I made the conscious decision, okay, let me convert my law degree and let me practice here. I'd sold my soul to the devil in South Africa. I wanted to reclaim my soul back in Canada.
Wow. What a
And
statement.
yeah, and so I had been given a second opportunity to do just that. So I had already decided who I was as a person, how I wanted to practice, what my moral compass was, what my values were, and how I was going to practice law in Canada. So I was already putting my mental health first. So I already had a pretty strong, I would say, personal development journey. And then it grew and it grew and it grew. But around about 2016, on paper, Gary, I had everything. I had 3 beautiful children. I had a fantastic husband. I had a beautiful home. I lived in a ravine. I had my definition of success of a practice. I was never a millionaire, but for me, I was successful because I was practicing how I wanted to practice. So on paper, I looked pretty goddamn fantastic.
Yeah, and to practice how you want, that is so liberating.
And
So you did have the sweet spot in that.
yeah, so I was already, as I said, a little further ahead than maybe other lawyers. And yet in 2016, I went through that very dark phase in my life where
Mm.
I was constantly guilty. If I was at home, I was thinking about my clients. If I was at work, I was resentful and upset that my nanny was sending me videos of my son walking for the first time.
Mm.
So I was constantly, I felt overwhelmed and I felt sad. And I didn't feel fulfilled. And at that time, my husband also was traveling a lot to South Africa. His parents weren't well, so there was just a lot going on, and I didn't feel good, and I didn't feel right. And I went to the Law Society website. Well, first I was speaking to some of my colleagues and going, like, is this normal? And no,
Mm.
I only knew sole practitioners. I never
I,
worked down.
I got to tell you, it is, but no one speaks of it.
Exactly. Exactly. So I went to them and I said, like, is it normal to feel? And every one of them said, if you can find a solution, we will follow you. Like, we find a solution for us. Challenge accepted. So I went to the Law Society website. This is in 2016. I would say a good 2 hours. I went into the belly of the Law Society website, and eventually I found a mental wellness page. And on the page it said, get good X amount of sleep, drink X amount of water, go for walk. I was like, I just spent 2 hours for that. And I realized there was nothing to help lawyers. And I was, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And I already knew about mindfulness, and I was already a Reiki. I knew about Reiki, and I was doing energy work. But I found an organ. It was called, they are called Warrior One, and they're based out of San Francisco.
Is that warrior or worrier?
Warrior, like,
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
didn't really help. It still could have been either one.
Actually, it helped. I totally got it.
And so Warrior One was a 1-year mindfulness and law teacher training. So it was specifically to teach mindfulness to lawyers.
Really?
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk? So that obviously it's in North America, it's in America, it's not here.
Yeah.
But what, like, unbelievably, like a game changer in my life, in
Okay.
who I wanted to be. And I was with other people who were thinking the same way as me. And there were professors there. There was an ex-judge doing it. There was I don't want to. What do you call someone? There's a special name, like they a spiritual person at a university. Like if kids need
Chaplain?
chaplain. He was a chaplain at a university. Thank you. It's like really great people that were doing this. And so that was my first introduction to mindfulness and Buddhism and all of that. And something didn't resonate with me. I didn't know that there were all these other different types of teachings. And so I was still I had a mindfulness teacher in Thailand. So I was still taking classes and lessons from him. And then he said, why don't you come to Thailand for 2 weeks? Why don't you, I'll introduce you to some of the monks and to some of the teachers in Thailand. And so I said, yeah, sure, why not? And so I did, and I spent 2 weeks with him and then, and the monks. And then
Amazing.
after
Amazing.
that, like I realized what type of teachings resonated with my heart. It wasn't Zen Buddhism. It was a Theravada Buddhism. And then I did a further year mindfulness course with through the teachings in Thailand. And so now we come to 2018. I've got 2 certifications, and it was okay. I'm going to open up Lotus Law, and I'm going to be there for my colleagues. I've done it. You know, you asked me to do it 2 years later. I've done it. Here I am. I
You
open up.
didn't just do it. You embraced it. You threw yourself into it. You did it credibly on the basis of training and education. Like you did it, you know, big. Right. Wow.
Because it was important to me. You know, I can say, oh, I did it for my colleagues, but really it was for me. You know, and it was like, how can I be of service? Now I have this. How can I be of service? And so I had Lotus Law, which was my side hustle, and that's where I taught mindfulness. We did meditation Mondays. I was bringing it to everyone. And then in 2021, it was the weirdest thing. And I talk about it as well. I was doing an interview with someone. I didn't even know what it was about. I think it was, is collaborative law nurture or nature? Like, I think that was kind of the people who go towards it.
Okay.
I think that's what the interview was about. And at the very end of the interview, she said to me, Nicolle, so what do you love about being a lawyer? So this is March 2021. And that was the question. So Nicolle, what do you love about being a lawyer? And Gary, have you ever seen the movie The Matrix?
Yes.
Like everything just stood still, like everything was going in slow motion. I was the only one seeing what was happening. And she
Oh,
asked that question, and everything just went silent and still. And there was this voice inside my head that went, nothing. I like nothing about being a lawyer. I don't like the law, and I don't like lawyers. I don't like the law because it's punitive, because if you use your common sense, you don't need the law. It's punitive, particularly family law is punitive. I like people who are lawyers. I don't like when they put their lawyer hat on, because then my heart can't deal with the dichotomy of, I don't know who I'm talking to anymore. Like I thought that,
wow.
but now you've put this on, and I can't resonate with you with this. And I must have muttered something. It was like almost like in the Matrix, take the red pill or the blue pill.
I'm so glad that I called you to do this. Like, this is an amazing story.
Yeah, and so that was, I muttered something. I must have, because
Yeah, you snuck through.
I snuck through. And after that interview, I said, I'm done being a lawyer. That was March 2021. And by December 31st, I ticked off my box to the Law Society non-practicing lawyer. And then October 2nd, 2023. So I was non-practicing. I was just on the non-practicing role, still doing whatever you have to do, just pay fees to the Law Society. October 2nd, 2023, I got an email while I was on safari, because I take professionals on safari to a retreat in South Africa. While I was on safari,
People don't realize how amazing you are.
Gary, I got this ping on my phone.
California, Thailand, safari in Africa. I had this epiphany. It's amazing.
So I got this ping on my phone. I'm in the safari, and I'm the giraffes in front of me. Okay. And I'm going, should I look at this email? No, Nicolle, you're on safari. Be in the moment. This is what you teach. How can you look? And I was like, I'll just quickly take a sneak peek, and then I'll put it away. And I looked at the email that had just come through. It was October 2nd, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in South Africa. So it was early in the morning.
You said 2023. That's just 6 weeks ago or so.
6 weeks ago. I got an email from the Law Society that they had accepted my surrender of my license to practice law. I literally surrendered my license. I said, I don't want it anymore. So I no longer have a license to practice law. And I cannot tell you, Gary.
Oh my God.
email, it was the most freeing feeling. I didn't realize how stuck I was to law. And I almost like, I'll probably get a lot of slack for saying this, or flack or slack for saying this, but being a lawyer for me with this mindset that I have was like being in an abusive relationship. I kept thinking I could change it. I kept thinking I could change
I hate
everyone.
to say this, but I get what you're saying. I've been interfacing with lawyers for 30 years of my 40-year practice. And I do see how it can be an abusive relationship. I'm on your side until I'm being cross-examined, for God's sakes. Then I'm pilloried as if nothing matters and there is no relationship. And it's like, where the hell does that come from?
Yeah, yeah,
And these are people who I respect, who I like. There's like they put on, so even so many put on that gladiator armor, and they're just a different person.
yeah. Of course, you got to fake it to make it, right? Because your values, your value system, your GPS system, your guidance provided by source system is telling you something else.
Wow.
And I want to just go back to that. When I don't say that I feel abused by my colleagues.
I hear the distinction. I hear the distinction. Yes.
I think the legal system, it's not broken, it's wounded, it needs healing. And
That, you know what? That is such a great paradigm shift. That from broken to wounded, needing healing. Um, that one's going to stick with me.
that's how I feel.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if something's broken, you discard it. We can't discard this legal system. One, it's a frigging system. We don't have anything to replace it with. And when you discard something, you say nothing of you is good, you're broken. But there are actually parts of our legal system that work really well. There are professionals in our legal system that are fantastic. We need them. We need evolution. We need wounding. We need healing. We don't get rid of what works. We evolve it. And so that's where I come from now. That's my mindset.
That is so evolutionary. Um, I'm really just sitting here taking it in. You're so inspirational. I hope a gazillion people watch this conversation we're having. Um, you just talking about that, it already teaches me. It's giving me a change of mindset. It's liberating, and it's inspirational.
Thank you. And Gary, I think it's a collective, right? Because many people, lawyers will go, well, this is a system. What are we going to do? If there's nothing else out there, what are we going to do? One person can't make a change. But, there's that thing that says, if you don't think you can make a change, think about that mosquito, that tiny little mosquito, right? It makes change. I'm screwing that metaphor up, but I think like we are all part of a collective. And so we have to heal ourselves inside first and show up in that collective. And once we are showing up as responsible and healing and trauma informed and trauma responsive, then you and I are within that collective. And then the energy that we have within that collective then can heal. Instead of healing from outside in, we heal from the inside out. We just need more people to collaborate so that we can change the collective, to get a point where the collective doesn't even know it's been changed, because it's just been an internal collective.
How two questions. Um, well, maybe just one. Two. How do you reach lawyers yourself with that message? And what are the services you provide then consistent with that? Like, what do you do? What do you do?
So, first of all, I don't want to give the impression that I've got a client base of 1,000 lawyers just waiting to change. Okay. The problem that you have with lawyers is the exact problem that I have with lawyers, right? And so the thing with lawyers is they want a quick fix. And
Mm.
so the lawyers think, like what you do, and like what I do, they say it's brilliant. It is so necessary. You have to do it. And they'll go, great, sure. Do you want to come to my courses? No, no, not for me. Like, no, I'm okay for all the other lawyers. Like, all the other lawyers need it,
Yeah, not me. Yeah,
not me.
yeah.
Or I know I need it, but I just don't have the time.
The hubris, the arrogance, the lack of insight.
So it's not.
And they don't know sometimes what they don't know.
Mm,
And there's no, but we before we came on together, we talked about my having a quadruple bypass a year and a half ago. It's an insidious process, heart disease. You don't realize you've got it until it's too late or nearly too late. I was nearly, wasn't too late. I think with these other lawyers as well, they don't realize how steeped they are in this mindset that works against them. They just live in it.
they live in it because they don't know how to get out. They know it's not. It's like eating a McDonald's burger. You shouldn't. It's not good for you. And so I think lawyers know they shouldn't be working as hard. They know they have to have boundaries. They know they have to do they know, but they don't know how to do it.
Mm.
And unfortunately, what happens is the only time they do it, if they don't catch it in time, like you did, they get whacked over the head with either they're alcoholics or they're using there's some kind of substance abuse, or
I just want to say to that, you're saying they're either alcoholics, substance abuse. I want to validate that lawyers on average um, are addicted to substances at a much greater rate than the general population. So when you say that, that isn't a value judgment, it's a fact-based statement. And
thank you.
I just wanted to validate that.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense, right? Because you first from the day you enter law school, you are steeped in a negative mindset. You steeped in worst case scenarios. Not only are
Mhm.
you steeped in worst case scenarios, you have to think about every single worst case scenario. That's your job, to be prudent, to be a little bit cynical, to think of everything that could go wrong. So when that's what you're doing for 7 to 8 or 10 hours a day, you can't just go home and turn off your light switch and go, okay, emotions, come back to me now, or positivity, come back. You don't even know that you're in it until suddenly you realize you're in it, but you're in it so deep you don't know how to get out of it. And so unfortunately, many lawyers, either they realize like I'm too busy to get help, but then the law society comes and says, we're taking your practice away from you. Or they suddenly, heaven forbid, have an illness or a heart attack, and suddenly their practice isn't that important anymore. Suddenly, miraculously, they're delegating work and they're doing what they have to do that they could have done
It's
in the.
amazing what crisis does for change,
Yeah,
but it's a shame that it takes a crisis.
yeah, yeah. And it's not easy. Like the way I'm talking is like, oh, you just do a bit of mindfulness and you'll be fine.
Oh, you and I are so on the same page. If as a social worker, I'm seeing people in such distress. That's all I do for a living, see them in such distress. And apart from the strategies that they may need to implement to manage their issues, I'm telling virtually every person who sits in front of me that you have to learn to practice meditation and mindfulness. I explain those are separate practices, both of which you actually have to take time to learn. They think, oh, and I get this said to me so many times. Oh, I tried, sitting there quietly and I just fell asleep. It doesn't work for me. Or I tried sitting there once or twice and my mind kept wandering. I said, well, yeah, that's normal. The
Yeah,
practice is when you catch your mind wandering and you can bring it back to be present again by choice. that's a remarkable gift. And as you practice that, you can do it more on the fly and more intentionally. And you can calm yourself more intentionally and be even more present and less strict, right? So, trying to help the people I serve, not lawyers, to understand that it takes weeks, months, and years to learn and develop this skill at a high level, but at least develop it at a moderate level. Um, anyways, we sing from the same songbook on that, and I'm just trying to convey that I get it, and and my challenge is in communicating that it is a learned strategy over time. It's not a single event, and now I can do this.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. However, I know for lawyers is they don't have the time to have it take a long time. So when I work with them, I call them in the moment strategies. What do you do in the moment? What do you do in the moment when a judge is busy screaming at you and your client is looking at you as if to say, why did I hire you? You know, what do you
Every
do?
lawyer can relate to that.
Yeah, what do you do when an email comes in and it's from that colleague, and there's a thing called email apnea where you go and you don't even realize that you're catching your breath and you're not breathing. What do you do when your phone rings and it's somebody moaning about something? What do you do in those moments? How do you get through that moment? How do you prepare yourself for the next
Oh my
moment?
God. I'm teaching the same stuff, by the way, to
Yeah.
my clients because they get that message, they get that email, they get that conflict with their partner, their child, their parent, their sister, their brother. And the capacity to be able to catch yourself in that moment, pause,
Yeah.
regroup, so that again you can act with intention and judgment.
Yeah. And it's even more than judgment, right? It's wisdom.
Better word. Sure.
uh,
Better
and,
word.
and it's that space, like all mindfulness does. Like, you meet, like, there are thousands of definitions of mindfulness. To me, the most simple definition of mindfulness is knowing what's going on in your body and mind at any given moment. Plain and simple. So knowing in the moment my heart is beating, or I've stopped breathing, or my hand is shaking, or I'm feeling anxiety rising inside of me, or even I'm having an argument with my colleague in my head. They don't even know that I'm having an argument with them. Just knowing there's a story, knowing that you're in the story and you can stop the story. Having that awareness of I'm in memory and I'm getting depressed of all the woulda shouldas.
So let me ask you, are you providing coaching? Are you providing workshops? Like, what is the services you provide? I want to
Uh,
promote you.
thank you.
I'm very explicit here. It's
Yeah,
very intentional. I want to promote you. What are the services you provide? How do people get in touch with you? Like,
yeah. So it's a whole scale of services, really. I have the one is I've got an online course where it's I want to say about 60, well, over 57, that I know for sure, small little videos and lessons. And you can do it it's meant to be an 8-week course, but it's self-paced. So it's a whole bunch of lessons and resources and meditations. And so that is a course that it's on my website, and you can just do
what's
it
your website? Promote it. Give it to me.
right now. Currently,
Yeah.
it's www.lotuslaw.com. So that
Lotus Law, all one word.
lotus-law.com.
Lotus-law.com. And that's on your
I
website.
think. Hold on, I have to check. Now you've got me confused. What is my
I
email?
was there a minute ago.
Uh, you were there.
I want people to know that if they like what we've been talking about and they want to get themselves some,
Well, you can get yourself some through this course. Thank you. You can
yes.
get yourself. I do one-on-one coaching as well. And then I haven't been doing it that often, but what I also do is every once in a while I'll do a 6-week online course, in person but virtual, where we can just come together as community. And so that could be if just a whole group of lawyers want to do it, or a whole group of friends want to do it, then we can just it's a 6-week program that's virtual. I haven't been doing that for a while because I've been doing my coaching and I've got my course, and then I'm
If
just
if a law firm wanted to bring you on as a consultant to do in-service training, is that is that something up for discussion?
that actually was the initial reason I decided to do what I was doing. um and it's much better now because the law society and the various bar associations are now realize, like, they're talking the talk. I don't say they're walking the walk, but they're definitely talking the talk. But when I started in 2018, mental health wasn't a big deal. Now it is. I haven't approached them, but that is something that I really wanted to do, was to either have lunch and learns at law firms, and then have a regular in-house training for 6 weeks with lawyers. So thank you for that. That was actually the impetus for why I wanted to do what I was doing, um, but it was just too hard.
Have any of your courses so far been approved for continuing legal education credit?
Every single one of my courses have got accreditation. So my
That's gold.
yeah. So
That's amazing.
I have to check because there's so many courses, different accreditations, but I know my 6-week course or my 6-week coaching program that I do is for professionalism hours and for EDI hours. Um, my retreat even has got hours that have been accredited by there's nothing that I do that hasn't been accredited by the Law Society for CPD hours, because
Good for you.
why wouldn't you go on safari and get your hours for the entire year?
I think that's awesome, and I think that's great thinking on your part.
So yeah,
Wow.
I think like you, Gary, and I know for you, well, you've probably been, given who you are and what you do, you've always had this propensity towards mental wellness. But I know for sure the last 2 years, I see what you're doing and how important it is to you, and the posts that you do, and bring it up. And what I really like about your posts is that they're accurate.
Hmm. Thank you.
They're accurate, like how you describe this. Most people think that mindfulness is meditation, and they're not. It's been portrayed that way in the West. They're two very separate things. Meditation is just one small part of mindfulness, um, and you make that distinction. And I'm very grateful for that, because there are lots of people who've got it wrong. When people go, "Oh, I've tried mindfulness, doesn't work for me." No, first of all, you tried a 30-minute meditation. That's like saying go do a 10K triathlon, but you've never run around the block once.
Okay, thank you for that, because that's the next comparison that I'm going to use with people so that hopefully they get it better. Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's like, why would start with 3 minutes if that's all you can do? And in those 3 minutes, notice, for me, I tell people all meditation really is your meditation practice, sitting on your cushion for however many minutes, it's a tiny microcosm of your huge macrocosm world. So if you in 3 minutes notice how often you went to your to-do list or to all of these things, that's exactly how scattered you are when you're outside of your meditation. It's putting yourself on the examination table and examining what goes on, and then going, okay, well, now we've highlighted it. Let's fix it. Let's heal it. Let's give it some attention. That's all it is. It's giving it attention.
Amazing. Um, I'm so enjoying chatting with you. We've been chatting for going on almost 45 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. And it's it's a blur. Like, it is so fast, it's so quick. So I am going to bring us to a close though.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to remind people that you are the author of this book. I don't know if it's showing up properly or not.
Yes, it's showing up. It's showing up beautifully. I love
Okay.
it.
All
It's
right. Because when I look at it on my screen, the words are backwards. So hopefully on your screen, the words are forwards. But it
Yeah.
says Insights for Everyday Mindfulness, Nicolle Kopping-Pavars, and website www.lotus-law.com.
And that
And
book's on Amazon. So if you just type in that name or my name, it will come up on Amazon. And thank you for purchasing it. I have to say, it actually is a deck of cards. It comes with an actual deck of cards, which is 52 cards. And that was the impetus for creating the book, actually.
yeah. So, you know, first of all, I'm going to digress and talk about me for just a moment in all of this. I started meditating when I was roughly 21 or 22 years of age. So I'm 67 now. People can do the math. And I no longer, quite frankly, meditate daily as a practice. And the meditation that I was trained in back in the day was transcendental meditation. It was a big hoo-ha back then, the Maharishi Mahesh Yoga, and there was this great big aura of spirituality around it. I, I got to. I don't align to the spirituality and that stuff personally. I come at it more from a scientific perspective, and my research into it back then demonstrated lower heart rate, better calm, better responsiveness, better attention. That's why I did it, and those were the benefits that I accrued and continue to enjoy to this day. I will when I remember, sorry, and when I'm stressed, I will come back to my mantra. So I can be with someone and I realize I need to think of my mantra and it's like Pavlov's dogs. I
Mhm.
think of my mantra and my whole disposition
Powerful.
changes, right? But since then, I've also, gotten a subscription to headspace.com. So learning their strategies and teachings and whatnot, I took a and kind of an introductory course to something called heart math.
Mm.
Another really interesting approach endorsed by some other lawyer friends, probably of both of ours.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm saying all this just to inform people that there are many paths to meditation. And look, a lot of people practice yoga for the same reason. And so for me, it's less, the path or the style that you choose, but that you try some and maybe a few to see that or those that resonate more for you. Um, so just to let you know, lifelong practitioner, and to have a lawyer like yourself who's now dedicated her life to this, I I I want to promote you. I want to congratulate you. I want to promote you, and I really hope that the uptake by they're still your colleagues by your colleagues is significant. I hope that they come to realize and enjoy the remarkable benefits to themselves personally, to their families, to their practice, to their clients. So I thank you. I'm talking a lot here, but all this to say, thank you for being you. Thank you for your epiphany, and I called you bold and brave. You're the double B. You're amazing, Nicolle.
Oh, thank you, Gary. Thank you. Like I'm not, I really don't have any words just to be in gratitude to you for reaching out and giving me this opportunity, but really just to spend this time with you and I just thoroughly enjoyed this space and time together. So thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording, but you and I are going to continue after I hit the button. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. Do go to Nicolle's website.